That voice in your head that says their family, just let it go. That voice has probably cost you more peace than the toxic person ever did. Welcome back to Kemsey Knows. Today, we are going somewhere that a lot of mental health content refuses to go. Not because it's not important, but because it's hard. We're not talking about cutting people off. We're talking about something far more complicated: staying connected to people who hurt you without losing yourself in the process. By the time this video ends, you will have a real, honest framework for navigating toxic family relationships, what to say, what to protect, and how to stop being destroyed by people you can't simply walk away from. Let's start with the truth that most Western psychology conveniently skips. In many African homes, and I mean this across cultures, across countries, family is not just a relationship, it is an institution. It is your identity, your reputation, your safety net, and sometimes your source of trauma, all wrapped in the same wrapper. When someone in Lagos or Accra or Nairobi talks about going no contact with their mother, they're not just choosing not to call someone, they may be choosing to forfeit their place at every family gathering, every funeral, every wedding. They may be risking being labeled as the one who destroyed the family. They may lose housing, financial support, or community they've known their whole life. So when people say just cut them off, it sounds like freedom. But for many of us, it sounds like a completely different kind of suffering. And here's what I want you to hear clearly: choosing not to cut someone off does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you don't know your worth. It means you are navigating a layered reality that requires a more sophisticated strategy than simply leaving. The goal then is not distance. The goal is protection from within proximity. First, know what you're actually dealing with. Before you can relate to a toxic family member, you need to be honest about what kind of toxicity you're dealing with, because they are not all the same. There's the oblivious offender, the aunt who constantly criticizes your weight or your career choices or your children, but genuinely believes she's being helpful. She has no self-awareness. She's not scheming, she's just thoughtless and conditioned. Then there's the calculated manipulator, the family member who knows exactly what they're doing. They gaslight, they triangulate, they use guilt and shame as currency. They know which wounds to press and when to press them. This person is different, and they require a very different approach. There's also the wounded perpetuator, someone who is genuinely hurting, whose trauma is real and deep, but who keeps bleeding on the people around them without taking any responsibility for the mess they make. And then there's the entitled patriarch or matriarch, the family elder, whose age or position has been used as a blanket excuse for their behavior for so long that they genuinely cannot fathom being held accountable. You need to know which one or which combination you're dealing with, because your strategy has to match the reality. Treating a calculated manipulator like they're just oblivious will leave you endlessly confused and endlessly hurt. Stop trying to change them. This one is painful, but it is necessary. The single biggest drain of energy in a toxic family dynamic is the hope that this time will be different. That if you explain it the right way, if you cry the right way, if you set the record straight clearly enough, they will finally get it. But here's what I've learned and what I want you to genuinely sit with. You cannot win an argument with someone who does not want to understand you. You cannot earn validation from someone who has decided not to give it. And you cannot heal a relationship single-handedly. Every time you walk into that family dinner hoping for a breakthrough, you're gambling your peace on someone else's willingness to change. And that is a bet you will almost always lose. This is not about giving up on people. This is about shifting the locus of your effort from them to you, instead of asking, how do I get them to see me? Start asking, how do I protect myself while still being in this space? That is the pivot that changes everything. The art of strategic engagement. Okay, so you're not cutting them off. You're not trying to fix them. What are you actually doing? You're engaging strategically. And this is a skill. It can be learned. First, decide what you are and are not available for. This is internal work before it's ever external action. Know your non-negotiables. What topics will you not discuss? What kind of treatment will you not absorb silently? Not because you're going to announce it like a manifesto, but because you know. And knowing creates a quiet, invisible boundary that shapes how you move in a room. Second, practice the Grey Rock method selectively. The Grey Rock method is simple. When a toxic person tries to provoke you, you become as interesting as a grey rock. You give short, flat, unemotional responses. You don't take the bait. You don't explain. You don't defend. Okay? I hear you. Noted. This is not cowardice. This is conservation of energy. But here's the nuance. You don't grey rock everyone. You save it for the people who feed on your reaction. For the oblivious ones, gentle redirection works better. For the wounded ones, limited empathy without enabling. Know your audience. Third, control your exits. One of the underrated skills in toxic family navigation is knowing how to leave a conversation, a room, a gathering without it becoming a scene. Develop your go-to phrases. I need to step away. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you. These are not lies. They are breathing room. They give you time and space without burning the house down. Fourth, stop over-explaining. This one will set you free. Toxic people do not deserve lengthy explanations. When you over-explain, you're inviting them into a negotiation where they will move the goalposts. A boundary is not a debate. I'm not going to discuss this is a complete sentence. Protect your inner world ferociously. Here is something I need you to understand. You can be physically present at a family event and emotionally unreachable. And that is not dissociation. That is a skill. It means doing the inner work before you walk through that door. Therapy, if you can access it. Journaling, grounding practices. Honest conversations with people who see you clearly. Because what toxic family members actually steal, more than your time, more than your money, more than your energy, is your narrative about yourself. When the aunt who has always called you too sensitive or too proud or too this, too that, when her voice starts to become your internal voice, that is the real damage. That is where the work is. So protect your inner world like it is the most valuable thing you own. Because it is. You can survive a toxic family dinner. What you cannot afford to lose is your sense of who you are when you leave. Grieve what you wish it was. I want to say something that doesn't get said enough in this conversation. It is okay to grieve the family you didn't get. A lot of us are walking around angry, and anger is valid, but underneath the anger is grief. Grief for the mother who should have protected you, the father who should have seen you, the siblings who should have had your back, the family gatherings that should have felt safe. That grief is real, and it deserves space. Not because it changes anything about the toxic people in your life, but because you deserve to acknowledge what you lost and what you've been carrying. You are not broken because your family is difficult. You are not weak because it hurts. You are a person who has been navigating something genuinely hard, and you deserve your own compassion first before you can show up with any kind of strategy for anyone else. So let me bring this home. Relating with toxic family members in an African context is not about perfecting a system. It is not about becoming someone who doesn't feel. It is about building a version of yourself that is grounded enough, self-aware enough, and boundaried enough to be in difficult spaces without being destroyed by them. You don't have to choose between your culture and your mental health. You don't have to choose between family and your sanity. But you do have to choose yourself, your clarity, your peace, your sense of self, fiercely and consistently, even when the pressure to abandon yourself is coming from the people who raised you. That is the work, and it is worth it. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needed to hear it today. And if there's a specific dynamic you want me to go deeper on, manipulation tactics, holiday gatherings, toxic parents, in-law drama, drop it in the comments. I'm here and I see you.